Dr. Sarah Kim walked through the massive halls of Nexus Prime, the largest space station in known space. Around her, beings from dozens of different worlds moved with purpose and pride. Some floated on anti-gravity platforms, others strode on multiple legs, and a few seemed to shift between solid and energy forms as they moved. Sarah looked very ordinary compared to them, wearing a simple blue uniform from Earth. Captain Jin Park followed close behind her, carrying a small case that held humanity's contribution to the Galactic Technology Exposition. The case looked plain and cheap next to the floating crystals and shimmering devices that other species brought to show off their advances. "Look at that," Jin whispered, pointing to a massive display where purple-skinned Zephyrians demonstrated their newest plasma weapon. The energy beam cut through a solid metal block like it was made of paper. The watching crowd made sounds of amazement and approval. Sarah nodded but kept walking. She had seen the technical data before they arrived. The weapon was powerful, but it only worked in normal space. She wondered if the Zephyrians had ever thought about what would happen if they needed to fight something that existed in multiple dimensions at once. They reached the human display area, which looked embarrassingly simple. Sarah had set up 3 basic fusion reactors, a small artificial intelligence computer, and some samples of Earth metals. Next to the Korvaxi matter manipulation device that could change lead into gold, the human technology looked like stone tools. Ambassador Vextar of the Zephyrian Empire approached their booth with several other alien officials. His scales glittered in the station's artificial light, and his 4 arms moved with practiced grace. Behind him walked Engineer Kolthek of the Korvaxi Collective, whose mechanical parts clicked softly as he moved. "So these are the famous humans we have heard about," Vextar said, his voice carrying clearly across the display area. "The species that only recently learned to leave their home planet." Sarah smiled politely. "We are honored to be here, Ambassador. Earth may be young in space travel, but we are eager to learn from more experienced civilizations." Vextar picked up one of the fusion reactor models, turning it over in his hands. "Fusion power. How quaint. We moved beyond such primitive energy sources 5,000 years ago." He set it down without care. "Tell me, Dr. Kim, what exactly do you hope to contribute to galactic civilization with such basic technology?" "We believe every perspective has value," Sarah replied calmly. "Sometimes, a fresh approach can solve old problems." The Zephyrian ambassador laughed, a sound like grinding metal. "Old problems? Child, my people were building star-spanning empires when your species was still discovering fire. What could you possibly teach us?" Other beings began to gather around the human display, drawn by Vextar's loud voice. Most looked curious rather than hostile, but Sarah could see the doubt in their expressions. A few pointed at the simple devices and spoke in their own languages, probably making jokes. Kolthek stepped forward, his mechanical eye focusing on the AI computer. "This artificial intelligence system," he said in his flat, electronic voice. "What are its capabilities?" Jin activated the computer, and a simple holographic face appeared. "Hello," it said in clear galactic standard language. "I am Arya, a basic artificial intelligence from Earth. I can help with calculations, translations, and simple problem-solving." The Korvaxi engineer made a sound that might have been laughter. "Our quantum minds can process information at speeds your primitive circuits cannot imagine. This device could not match the thinking power of a Korvaxi child." "That may be true," Sarah said. "But Arya was designed for cooperation, not competition. She works with humans to find solutions, rather than replacing them." 3. High Council member Thys of the Etherian Dominion had been listening quietly from the edge of the crowd. Her ancient, energy-based form flickered as she spoke. An interesting philosophy. Most species develop artificial intelligence to surpass their own limitations. "We prefer to expand our capabilities rather than replace them," Sarah explained. "Humans and AI working together can often find answers that neither could reach alone." Vextar waved his upper arms dismissively. Philosophy means nothing when faced with real challenges. Your cooperation and teamwork cannot stand against the forces that threaten galactic civilization. As if summoned by his words, alarms began to sound throughout the station. Emergency lights flashed red, and a voice spoke over the communication system in multiple languages. Attention all beings. This is Admiral Corda of Station Command. We have detected an ancient object approaching the Kelvani system. All representatives are requested to report to the Emergency Council chamber immediately. The crowd around the human display scattered as beings hurried toward the center of the station. Sarah and Jin followed, along with their case of simple technology. In the Great Chamber, a massive holographic display showed star maps and data streams. Admiral Korta, a large being covered in thick armor plating, stood before the assembly. 3 hours ago, our deep space sensors detected this object. The display zoomed in on something that hurt to look at directly. It seemed to shift and change shape, existing in several places at once. What you are seeing is an artifact from the first civilization, the ones who vanished 1,000,000 years ago. Our scientists believe it is what ancient texts call a reality shatterer. It exists in multiple dimensions simultaneously and appears to be on a collision course with the Kelvani homeworld. Shocked voices filled the chamber. The Kelvani were a peaceful species of farmers and artists. Their world held 8 billion lives. "How long do we have?" asked a representative from the Peaceful Healing Guild. "At current speed, impact in 67 hours, Korta replied. "We have already sent our fastest ships to attempt intercept, but early results are not promising." On the display, a Zephyrian warship fired its most powerful plasma weapons at the strange object. The energy beams passed right through it, as if nothing was there. "The object exists in at least 7 dimensions," continued the Admiral. "Our weapons and shields only function in normal space. We cannot touch it, redirect it, or even slow it down." Vextar stood up, his scales now pale with worry. "The Zephyrian Empire will commit our entire fleet to this effort. Surely combined firepower can affect this thing. The Korvaxi Collective offers our matter manipulation technology," Kolthek added. "If we cannot destroy it, perhaps we can change its structure." Other species quickly offered their most advanced technology and weapons. But Sarah noticed that each suggestion focused on force or direct confrontation. She quietly took notes on her simple tablet, while the great powers of the galaxy planned their attack. As the meeting continued and more failed attempts were reported, Sarah raised her hand. The gesture looked small and insignificant among all the grand displays of alien technology. "Yes?" Admiral Korta said, noticing her only because the chamber had grown quiet. "Has anyone considered that this object might not be a weapon?" Sarah asked, "and that it might be possible to communicate with it rather than destroy it?" The chamber erupted in voices. Some laughed, others showed anger, and a few seemed curious, despite themselves. Vextar's voice rose above the others. "The humans want to talk to a planet killer. This is exactly why primitive species should not be allowed in civilized discussions." Sarah remained calm. "I simply wonder if we are making assumptions based on our own fears rather than careful observation." As she spoke, another report came in. A combined fleet of 12 species had engaged the reality shatterer with every advanced weapon they possessed. None had any effect whatsoever. The object continued toward the Kelvani homeworld, and time was running out. The next 24 hours brought nothing but failure and growing panic. Sarah watched from the observation deck as ship after ship attacked the reality shatterer with increasingly desperate tactics. Each attempt had the same result. Weapons passed through empty space while the object continued its steady path toward the Kelvani homeworld. In the council chamber, representatives from major civilizations argued loudly about strategy. The Zephyrian fleet had tried concentrated plasma bombardment. The Korvaxi had attempted to change the object's molecular structure. The Etherian Dominion had even used their time manipulation technology to slow local space around the object. Nothing worked. 43 hours remaining, announced Admiral Corta during the morning briefing. His armored face showed the strain of command during an impossible crisis. Evacuation of the Kelvani system has begun. But we cannot move 8 billion people in time. Vextar slammed his fist on the council table. There must be something we are missing. The Zephyrian Empire has defended this galaxy for 10,000 years. We do not accept defeat. 1. Perhaps, suggested Engineer Kolthek, we should consider using planet-killer weapons on the Kelvani homeworld itself. If we destroy the planet before impact, we might save the surrounding systems from whatever happens when these two forces meet. The chamber fell silent. Even suggesting such a thing showed how desperate the situation had become. High Council Member Thys flickered with what looked like anger. The Etherian Dominion will not participate in genocide, she stated firmly. We must find another way. She well said. Well, Sarah had spent the night in the human quarters, working with Jin and their simple computers. While the galaxy's greatest minds focused on bigger weapons and more powerful technology, she had taken a different approach. She studied the reality shatterers' movement patterns, energy signatures, and dimensional fluctuations. Aria, their basic AI, had been processing the data continuously. The artificial intelligence did not have the raw computing power of alien quantum minds, but it approached problems differently. Instead of trying to overpower the data with calculations, Aria looked for patterns and connections. Show me the dimensional frequency analysis again, Sarah said to Jin. The holographic display showed 7 overlapping wave patterns. Each represented one dimension, where the reality shatterer existed simultaneously. Most observers saw chaos, but Sarah began to notice something else. Look at this, she said, pointing to specific points where the waves matched up. The frequencies are not random. They follow a mathematical sequence. Jin studied the patterns. His military training included theoretical physics, and he quickly understood what Sarah was seeing. It is like a song, he said slowly. Or a signal. Exactly. This object is not just existing in multiple dimensions. It is communicating across them. End quote. They worked together, using Earth's mathematical models for dimensional theory. Most alien civilizations had developed their science around manipulation and control. Humans had approached dimensional research from a different angle: exploration and understanding. While other species had tried to conquer space and time, humans had tried to cooperate with natural forces. This different approach had led to different tools and different ways of thinking about problems. If this is a signal, Jin said, then someone or something is sending it. Sarah nodded. And if we can understand the message, maybe we can respond. She gathered their notes and headed back to the council chamber. The arguing had grown louder and more desperate. Several species were now supporting Koltek's suggestion to destroy the Kelvani homeworld before the collision. 39 hours remaining, Admiral Corta was saying. We need to make a decision soon, if we are going to evacuate our ships before. Excuse me, Sarah said, raising her hand. I would like to present an alternative analysis. Vextar turned toward her with obvious irritation. Dr. Kim, this is not the time for more primitive human theories. We need real solutions. What if the reality shatterer is not a weapon? Sarah asked the chamber. What if it is actually a distress signal? The arguing stopped. Every being in the room turned to look at the small human woman standing near the back. Impossible, declared a representative from the warrior clans. Our sensors show massive energy readings consistent with planet-killing capability. Sarah activated her simple tablet and projected its display for all to see. The mathematical patterns appeared in the air, showing the 7-dimensional frequencies she and Jin had analyzed. These energy readings follow a specific pattern, she explained. In human mathematics, this type of sequence usually indicates intentional communication rather than random destruction. Thys moved closer to examine the projection. Her ancient energy form flickered with interest. Show us more. The object exists in 7 dimensions simultaneously, Sarah continued. But it is not trying to break into our reality. It is trying to synchronize with it. The energy bursts happen when the dimensional frequencies almost match normal space. What does this mean? Asked Admiral Corta. It means something is trapped between dimensions and is trying to get our attention. The reality shatterer might be the only way they can communicate with beings who exist in normal space. The chamber erupted in discussion again. Some representatives seemed intrigued by this new possibility, while others remained focused on the immediate danger. Even if you are correct, Vextar said, how does this help us? We still cannot affect something that exists in multiple dimensions. Sarah looked around the room at all the advanced alien technology and brilliant minds. What if we could? Human technology cannot achieve what our advanced civilizations have failed to accomplish, Kolthek stated flatly. Not human technology alone, Sarah agreed. But human technology, combined with yours, might be able to do something none of us could manage separately. She paused, knowing that her next words would change everything. For the past 50 years, Earth has been working on a secret project. We call it the Dimensional Ark. The silence in the chamber felt heavy. Every being present understood that humans had just revealed they possessed technology beyond what anyone had imagined. Impossible, Vextar whispered. You are a primitive species. You barely have faster than light travel. We may be primitive in some ways, Sarah replied. But we have been studying dimensional physics longer than you might think. Not to build weapons, but to build something that could help. Admiral Corta leaned forward. What exactly is this dimensional ark? A ship designed to exist in multiple dimensions simultaneously. Like the reality shatterer, but stable and controlled. We built it as an exploration vessel, to study the spaces between normal reality. You built a ship that can travel between dimensions? Thys asked, her energy form brightening with amazement. Not travel between them, Sarah corrected. Exist in multiple dimensions at the same time. The Ark can interact with objects and beings, no matter which layer of reality they occupy. The implications struck everyone at once. If humans possessed such technology, they might actually be able to communicate with whatever was trapped in the reality shatterer. Why should we believe you? Vextar demanded. But his voice lacked its earlier confidence. Sarah smiled calmly. Because the dimensional ark is already on its way here. It should arrive in 36 hours. Sarah. 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 You called it before asking our permission? A representative from the Trade Federation asked angrily. We called it as soon as we realized what the reality shatterer actually was, Jin answered. If we are right, this is a rescue mission. If we are wrong, having one more ship in the area will not make the situation worse. Admiral Court stood up slowly. Dr. Kim, if your ship can actually interact with the reality shatterer, what would you need from us? Cooperation? Sarah replied simply. The dimensional ark has human dimensional technology, but it needs more power and precision than Earth can provide. With Zephyrian power systems, Korvaxi matter manipulation, Etherian time coordination, and the advanced computers from other species, we might be able to not just communicate with the trapped beings, but actually help them. And if we help you, what do humans want in return? Vextar asked suspiciously. Sarah looked around the room at all the species that had dismissed humanity as primitive and worthless. We want to save 8 billion Kelvani lives, she said quietly. We want to rescue whoever is trapped in that object. And we want to show the galaxy that cooperation works better than competition. The chamber fell silent as every being present realized that the primitive humans might be their only hope. The debate in the council chamber lasted for 6 hours. Representatives from 12 major civilizations argued about whether to trust human claims about dimensional technology. Some species demanded proof before committing resources. Others worried that humans were lying to gain military secrets. A few suggested that even if the dimensional arc was real, primitive humans could not possibly operate such advanced technology safely. Sarah sat quietly through most of the arguments, answering technical questions when asked. Jin stood beside her, taking careful notes about which species seemed willing to help and which ones remained suspicious. The mathematical theories check out, admitted Kolthek after reviewing Sarah's dimensional calculations. The patterns do suggest intentional communication rather than random destruction. But theories and working technology are very different things. Vextar paced back and forth, his forearms moving restlessly. Even if humans have built this dimensional arc, they lack the industrial capacity to construct something truly powerful. Their entire species has barely reached basic space travel. Ambassador Vextar makes a valid point, said Representative Koltar from the mining guilds. Dimensional manipulation requires enormous energy outputs. Human fusion reactors could not possibly generate sufficient power. And 100 people. Reist, and Sarah finally stood up. You are all correct. Human technology alone cannot solve this problem. That is exactly why we need to work together. She activated her tablet again, displaying new technical specifications. The dimensional arc was designed specifically for cooperation. Its core systems can integrate with alien technology. Zephyrian power cores would increase its energy output by 3,000%. Korvaxi matter manipulation could provide the precision we need for safe dimensional transitions. Etherian time coordination would help us navigate temporal distortions. Tis moved closer, her energy form flickering with interest. This integration capability was built into the ship from the beginning? Yes, Sarah replied. Humans learn by working with others. We assumed that if we ever encountered alien civilizations, we would want to combine our knowledge rather than compete with it. The ancient Etherian was quiet for a long moment. Most species design their technology to exclude others, to maintain advantages over potential rivals. You designed yours for inclusion. Competition makes individuals stronger, Jin added. But cooperation makes everyone stronger. Admiral Kortha had been monitoring the latest reports from the Reality Shatterer. 30 hours remaining until impact. If we are going to attempt this cooperation, we need to decide now. The debate began again, but with less hostility than before. Even the most suspicious representatives were starting to realize that conventional weapons had completely failed. The choice was becoming clear. Try the human approach, or watch 8 billion Kelvani die. What guarantees do we have? Asked Vextar. If we share our most advanced technology with humans, how do we know you will not use it against us later? And, Sarah looked directly at the Zephyrian ambassador. The same guarantee we have that you will not use our dimensional technology against Earth. We have to trust each other, or the Kelvani homeworld dies while we argue about what might happen in the future. The blunt honesty of her answer seemed to surprise many of the alien representatives. Most galactic politics involved complex negotiations, careful agreements, and detailed contracts. The human approach was startlingly simple. The Etherian Dominion will provide time coordination technology. This announced suddenly. We believe the human approach deserves a chance. Her decision seemed to break the deadlock. One by one, other species began committing resources to the joint effort. The Korvaxi Collective will contribute matter manipulation systems, Kolthek stated, and our finest engineers to operate them. The Healing Guild offers our bio-neural interfaces for improved crew coordination, added their representative. Even Vextar eventually spoke up. The Zephyrian Empire will provide power cores and weapons systems, but if this fails, humans will answer for the consequences. Sarah nodded calmly. If this fails, there probably will not be anyone left to answer to. 18 hours later, the dimensional arc arrived at the edge of the crisis zone. Sarah and Jin took a shuttle to meet their ship, accompanied by alien engineers carrying the most advanced technology in the galaxy. The Ark looked nothing like the sleek warships or elegant vessels of other species. It appeared to be a simple cylinder, about 2 kilometers long, covered in strange geometric patterns. But as they approached, the patterns began to shift and change, creating optical illusions that hurt to watch directly. It exists in normal space and 6 other dimensions simultaneously, Sarah explained to the alien engineers who would be working with her. The patterns you see are where different dimensional layers intersect with normal reality. Kolthek extended mechanical sensors toward the ship. Fascinating. The dimensional matrix appears stable, but I do not understand how you maintain coherence across multiple reality layers. Human mathematics approach the problem differently, Jin replied. Instead of forcing dimensions to bend to our will, we learn to bend with them. The ship flows with natural dimensional currents rather than fighting against them. Inside the Ark, the alien engineers began installing their technology. The process was unlike anything any of them had experienced before. Instead of replacing human systems, their equipment seemed to merge and blend with existing technology. Incredible, whispered a Zephyrian power specialist, as his energy cores connected seamlessly with human dimensional generators. The integration is perfect. It is as if your systems were specifically designed to work with ours. They were, Sarah said simply. We have been planning for this cooperation for decades. The installation took 12 hours of careful work. Sarah coordinated the efforts, while Jin managed the complex calculations needed to maintain dimensional stability with so many new systems online. Finally, everything was ready. The modified dimensional Ark possessed capabilities that no single species could have achieved alone. Zephyrian power cores provided massive energy output. Korvaxi matter manipulation gave precise control over physical interactions. Etherian time coordination allowed navigation through temporal distortions. Human dimensional mathematics held it all together in a stable, controllable form. 6 hours until the reality shatterer reaches the Kelvani homeworld, Admiral Kortha announced over the communication system. Dimensional Ark, you are cleared for approach. As they moved toward the strange object that had defied the galaxy's most advanced civilizations, Sarah felt a mixture of excitement and fear. Everything she had worked toward for 20 years was about to be tested. The reality shatterer grew larger on their screens, and its true nature became clearer. It was not just existing in multiple dimensions. It was trapped between them, unable to find stability in any single layer of reality. Beginning dimensional synchronization, Sarah announced. Around her, alien engineers worked at stations they had never seen before. Operating technology they did not fully understand, trusting in human coordination and their own expertise. The Ark began to shift between dimensions, its hull flickering in and out of normal space. For the first time since the crisis began, a ship was matching the reality shatterer's dimensional frequency. Contact established, Jin reported. We are receiving communication signals. On the main screen, patterns of light began to form, complex, beautiful, and clearly intelligent. After being trapped between dimensions for unknown ages, someone was finally able to hear their call for help. Unknown vessel, came a voice over the communication system, speaking in a language that the ship's computers could barely translate. We are dying. Please help us return to the light of normal space. We have been lost in the darkness between worlds for so long. Sarah looked around at the alien engineers who had volunteered to work with primitive human technology. Zephyrians, Korvaxi, Etherians, and others all working together toward the same goal. We hear you, she replied. We are here to help. But first, we need to understand what happened to you and how to bring you home safely. The rescue mission was about to begin, but Sarah already knew that something much more important had happened. The galaxy's most advanced civilizations had learned that cooperation achieved what competition could not. And humanity had proven that being primitive in some areas did not mean being inferior in others. The real journey was just beginning. The voice from the reality shatterer was weak and filled with desperation. Through the ship's translation systems, the alien crew of the dimensional Ark could hear pain that had lasted for countless years. "We are the Wanderers," the voice continued slowly. "Our homeworld, destroyed. We built ships to escape, between dimensions. But we became lost. Cannot find the way back to normal space." Sarah worked at her control station, while Kolthek operated the matter manipulation systems beside her. "How long have you been trapped?" she asked. There was a long pause. When the answer came, it shocked everyone on the bridge. "We do not know. Time moves differently here. Could be thousands of your years. Maybe more." Jin checked the navigation displays. 4 hours until impact with the Kelvani homeworld. We need to work fast. The dimensional Ark moved closer to the reality shatterer, maintaining perfect synchronization across 7 dimensions. As they approached, the alien object began to come into focus for the first time. It was not a weapon at all. It was a massive ship, similar in size to an entire city. The hull was covered in beautiful patterns that seemed to tell stories of a lost civilization. But the ship was clearly damaged, with sections that flickered in and out of reality. "Can you show us what happened to your vessel?" Sarah asked. New patterns of light appeared on their screens. The Wanderers shared their memories through visual communication. The crew watched as an entire civilization faced destruction from a natural disaster. Their star was dying much faster than predicted. In desperation, the Wanderers had built dimensional ships to escape into other layers of reality, planning to return when they found a new home. But something had gone wrong during the transition. Instead of reaching another dimension safely, they had become stuck between multiple realities, unable to exist fully in any of them. "We can help you," Sarah announced after reviewing the technical data. "But the process will be dangerous. Your ship's dimensional matrix has become unstable after so many years of being trapped. We need to carefully realign your reality anchors without causing a catastrophic dimensional collapse." "What does that mean for the Kelvani homeworld?" asked Vex Tar over the communication system. The Zephyrian ambassador was monitoring their progress from Nexus Prime. Jin ran calculations on his console. "If we do this wrong, the dimensional energies released could destroy everything within several light years. If we do it right, the Wanderer ship will materialize in normal space, and the threat to Kelvani will end. And if we do nothing," Sarah added quietly, "then the Wanderer ship impacts the planet in less than 4 hours, and the dimensional energies tear apart the entire system anyway." The weight of 8 billion lives rested on the success of their rescue mission. Around the bridge, alien engineers from species that had been enemies for centuries worked together with focus and determination. "Beginning dimensional realignment procedure," Sarah announced. "All stations. Report status. Zephyrian power cores operating at maximum safe capacity," reported the energy specialist. "Korvaxi matter manipulation systems ready for precision adjustments," Kolthek stated. "Etherian time coordination locked on target frequencies," added Thys, who had joined the mission personally. "Human dimensional mathematics show green across all variables," Jin confirmed. Sarah took a deep breath. "Wanderer ship. We are going to begin the rescue procedure. You may experience some discomfort as we stabilize your reality matrix." "We understand," came the reply. "We have waited so long for someone to help us. We trust you." Well, the process began slowly and carefully. Using Korvaxi precision tools, they started adjusting the dimensional anchors that kept the Wanderer ship locked between realities. Each change had to be balanced perfectly, or the massive energies involved could destroy both ships. "Dimensional Layer 1 stabilizing," Jin reported. The work was incredibly complex. Sarah found herself relying not just on human knowledge, but on the expertise of every alien engineer present. The Zephyrian power systems provided energy outputs that human technology could never achieve. The Korvaxi manipulation tools made adjustments at the atomic level. The Etherian time coordination prevented temporal paradoxes as they shifted between realities. But most importantly, they all worked together. When problems arose, they solved them as a team rather than competing for control. Warning, Kolthek announced during the third hour of work. Dimensional matrix showing signs of cascade failure in Layer 5. I see it, Sarah replied, her hands moving quickly across her controls. Can you slow local time around that section while we make corrections? Already working on it, the Etherian replied, her energy form bright with concentration. The problem was serious. If Layer 5 collapsed while they were still connected to it, the dimensional arc could be dragged into the space between realities, along with the Wanderer ship. Human mathematical models suggest a solution, Jin announced, but it requires perfect timing from all stations. Explain quickly, Vextar demanded over the communication system. 1 hour until impact. Sarah looked around the bridge at beings from different worlds, all focused on the same goal. Instead of stabilizing the layers one at a time, we need to synchronize all 7 dimensions simultaneously. It is much more dangerous, but it might be our only option. That level of coordination is impossible, Kolthek stated. No computer system can calculate the variables fast enough. No single computer system, Sarah agreed. But we are not using a single system. We have human intuitive mathematics, Korvaxi logical processing, Zephyrian energy management, and Etherian temporal awareness, all working together. This flickered with what might have been amazement. You want to use our minds as components of a living computer network. Not components, Sarah corrected. Partners, each contributing what they do best. It was an unprecedented level of cooperation. Instead of one species controlling the operation while others assisted, they would share control equally across all major systems. 30 minutes until impact, Admiral Korta announced from the Fleet Command Center. Whatever you are going to do it now. All stations ready? Sarah asked. Confirmations came from around the bridge. Alien beings who had dismissed humans as primitive were now trusting human coordination with their most advanced technology and their own lives. Beginning synchronized dimensional stabilization, Sarah announced. What happened next was like watching a perfect dance performed across 7 different layers of reality. Each engineer focused on their specialty while staying in perfect harmony with the others. Human mathematics provided the rhythm, while alien technology provided the power and precision. The reality shatterer began to change. The shifting, unstable patterns became clearer and more solid. For the first time in thousands of years, the Wanderer ship was finding its way back to normal space. It is working, Jin announced with excitement. All dimensional layers stabilizing. Wanderer ship reporting successful transition to normal space, came a joyful voice over the communication system. We can see stars again. Real stars in normal space. On the main screen, the massive alien vessel solidified into normal reality. It was beautiful. A work of art, as much as a ship, covered in flowing designs that told the story of a lost civilization. Impact trajectory has changed, Admiral Korta announced, his voice filled with relief. The Wanderer ship is now on a safe course that will bypass the Kelvani homeworld completely. Cheers erupted across the communication networks as billions of lives were saved and an ancient civilization was rescued from eternal imprisonment. But Sarah was already thinking about what came next. The real test was not whether they could work together in a crisis, but whether they could continue working together when the immediate danger was over. The Wanderer ship turned toward the dimensional arc, and a new message appeared on their screens. Thank you for bringing us home. Now, how can we help you help others? Sarah smiled, knowing that the galaxy had just changed forever. 6 months after the rescue of the Wanderer ship, The galaxy was a different place. Sarah stood in the same council chamber where alien representatives had once mocked human technology. But now the atmosphere was completely changed. Beings from dozens of worlds worked together on projects that would have been impossible before the crisis. The Wanderer civilization had brought gifts beyond imagination. Their knowledge of dimensional physics, gained from thousands of years trapped between realities, revolutionized galactic science. But they insisted that humans serve as the coordinators and teachers of this new knowledge. Your species showed wisdom and compassion when they could have chosen conquest, explained Elder Kaltor, the Wanderer representative. His people looked similar to humans but taller, with skin that seemed to contain tiny stars. We trust the dimensional secrets to those who use cooperation instead of competition. Jin Park, now Director of Interspecies Cooperation, addressed the assembled representatives. The first Dimensional Ark Academy will open next month on Earth. Students from every willing civilization will learn together how to build and operate dimensional vessels. The changes went far beyond technology. Trade routes that had taken weeks now took days through dimensional gateways. Scientific discoveries happened at incredible speed when multiple species shared knowledge freely. Even old conflicts seemed pointless when working together achieved so much more than fighting. Vextar, who had once dismissed humans as primitive, now served as the Zephyrian ambassador to Earth. I must admit, he said during a recent diplomatic meeting, human methods produce results that pure technology cannot achieve. The Zephyrian Empire is stronger through cooperation than we ever were through conquest. The transformation was not just political or technological, it was philosophical. Species that had spent centuries trying to prove their superiority over others began focusing on what they could accomplish together. Kolthek had established the first interspecies engineering guild, where Korvaxi precision worked alongside human creativity and Zephyrian power. Logic suggests that cooperation is more efficient than competition in most scenarios, he announced during a technical conference. Humans were correct to design their technology for sharing rather than hoarding. But the most dramatic change was in how civilizations approached problems. The old method of throwing bigger weapons or more advanced technology at difficulties had given way to the human approach. Understanding, cooperation, and creative solutions. Sarah, now Director of Galactic Dimensional Sciences, spent her days coordinating research projects across dozens of worlds. The work was exciting, but what made her happiest was seeing how different species learned from each other. The Healing Guild's bio-neural interfaces, combined with Wanderer dimensional knowledge, have created medical treatments we never imagined possible. She reported to the Galactic Council. Diseases that had no cure for thousands of years are now treatable by adjusting the patient's dimensional frequency. The success stories continued. Environmental disasters could now be prevented by shifting harmful substances into empty dimensional layers. Resource conflicts disappeared when matter could be harvested from uninhabited realities. Even space travel became safer, as dimensional ships could avoid collisions by briefly shifting to alternate layers of space. The dimensional Ark fleet had grown to 50 vessels, each crew containing members from multiple species. Their mission was exploration and rescue, searching other dimensional layers for lost civilizations or beings in need of help. We have found 17 more trapped species, reported Captain Lee Sujin, commander of the newest Ark ship. She was Sarah's former student and the first human to be trained in advanced dimensional navigation. Each rescue teaches us more about how to help others and how to prevent such accidents in the future. But perhaps the most important change was in attitudes toward different approaches to problems. The galaxy had learned that advanced did not always mean better, and that primitive tools could sometimes solve problems that complex technology could not. During a recent scientific conference, Thys of the Etherian Dominion made a statement that surprised everyone. We have been measuring advancement wrong for millions of years. We thought the most complex technology was automatically superior. But humans showed us that the best solutions are often the simplest ones that work with natural forces rather than against them. The conference was being held on the Wanderer homeworld. A beautiful planet, that existed partially in normal space and partially in other dimensions. The wanderers had chosen to live between realities, using their unique perspective to serve as mediators and advisors to other species. Your rescue taught the galaxy an important lesson, Elder Kaltor said to Sarah during a quiet moment between meetings. Sometimes, the greatest strength comes from admitting that you need help from others. Sarah nodded, looking out at the strange beauty of a dimensional sunset, where multiple layers of reality created colors that had no names. Humans learned long ago that we accomplish more together than alone. We just had to teach the rest of the galaxy the same lesson. The communication network brought news from across known space. A Korvaxi exploration team had discovered ruins of another lost civilization. A mixed Zephyrian human research group had developed new forms of clean energy. The Healing Guild was using dimensional techniques to restore damaged ecosystems on war-torn worlds. But the most significant news came from Earth itself. The planet that had once been dismissed as backward and primitive was now the center of galactic learning and cooperation. The Dimensional Ark Academy had waiting lists from every known species, and human methods of cooperation were being taught as standard practice in schools across hundreds of worlds. "How does it feel?" Jin asked Sarah as they watched another group of mixed-species students graduate from the academy. "To know that humanity went from being ignored to being respected in less than a year?" Sarah smiled, remembering the day when Vextar had mocked their simple fusion reactors. "I think we were always worthy of respect. We just had to find the right problem to solve." The graduation ceremony was taking place in the main hall of the academy, where students from 23 different species received their certifications as dimensional engineers. They would return to their home worlds not just with new technical knowledge, but with experience in cooperative problem-solving that would change their entire civilizations. The ceremony concluded with the traditional blessing from the Wanderers, spoken in their musical language and translated into hundreds of others. "May you always remember that the space between worlds is not empty, but filled with infinite possibilities for those who choose to explore together." As the celebration continued around her, Sarah thought about the future. The galaxy was exploring dimensions beyond the original 7, finding entire universes of possibility. Some contained resources, others held knowledge, and a few showed glimpses of what galactic civilization might become with continued cooperation. The Dimensional Ark program was expanding beyond rescue missions to include exploration, research, and diplomacy. Each ship served as a symbol of what could be achieved when different species worked together toward common goals. But most importantly, the next generation was growing up with cooperation as the normal way of doing things. Young beings from different worlds learned together, played together, and would eventually solve problems together that their parents could never have imagined. The real dimensional breakthrough was not technological, Sarah realized as she watched human and alien children working on a science project together. It was learning to see beyond the barriers that kept us separated. Now. The galaxy had discovered that the most advanced civilizations were not necessarily the ones with the biggest weapons or the fastest ships. They were the ones wise enough to learn from others, humble enough to ask for help, and brave enough to offer assistance when it was needed. And in the end, it had been the supposedly primitive humans who taught the galaxy this most important lesson of all.